And welcome to another California Guy video with your boy California Guy. What's up, everybody, and welcome to this all new video. This video will be entitled, this is a response to Afrisynergy news video, and the video is going to be about, why Afrisynergy, Afrisynergy is a conservative, Afrisynergy news, run by Mr. West, Mr. T West, and I refer to him as Mr. West because I have respect for him. So this is not a disrespectful video, people. In fact, before I even go on a limb, I admire Mr. West and the work that he does with his black activism, and I admire the stuff that he does about African culture. He teaches about black culture and black unity. We have a difference of opinions when it comes to politics, a slight difference. We both could agree about racism in America and black people advancing, and I agree with him about people of color even. We shouldn't use that term. So, we have a slight difference. He's a, Trump supporter, which I don't mind it. It's not for me, but I think that black people should vote their conscience. So, you vote your conscience. You don't vote for a party because everybody else does it. So, he has different ideals. Some ideals are good and some I disagree with. And so that's what this video is about with Afrisynergy news. And again, I even recommend you guys check out check out his channel also. He has outside the Trump stuff, I believe he has very good insight on African people, Pan-Africanism. I've learned a lot from Afrisynergy, Mr. West. So if he's listened to the video, I admire his videos. I have no issue at all with him or the videos. It's just a political argument I'm about to state in this video. So I'm just responding to Mr. West because Key says that, the Democratic Party is like devils towards black people. I disagree with that. Now, I admit the Democratic Party is not perfect. It's just like the Republican Party. They're both are parties. So the Democratic Party is run by Wall Street. So I will point that out. Now, I myself am a liberal and I'm a socialist. I consider myself a liberal and a socialist. And with me being a liberal and a socialist, I look at the world differently for African American people. I'm for protecting black people's interests in America. And Mr. West, I believe, is going down a path that I don't think does African Americans really any good at all. And that is voting for Republicans or conservatives. Now, I have no issue with black people being conservative, and I have no issue with black people being Republican. If you guys think you want to save money, conserve money, and you guys are for that stuff, hey, that's all you guys. But I'm going to offer a counter argument to Afrisynergy. Afrisynergy says, and I made a comment to this comment section, I think he ignored me, but he said some stuff about the Democrats, put Cosby in jail. Then he says that the Democratic Party has always been a racist party, which is untrue. The Democratic Party was racist when he had conservatives under their party. When the right wing, I was going to correct that part for people. The Democrats had the Dixie Democrats, and the Dixie Democrats left to the Republican Party. Afrisynergy is using very deceptive tactics in the videos that he's been doing. He's been on this Trump train for a while. Now, Donald Trump himself, to be honest with you, I don't think has black people's interests at heart at all. Donald Trump has not pushed no policies even. He has not pushed no policies for black people to help them make them live better. All I hear is, I'm doing stuff for the interests of black Americans. One of the myths that's been told by Afrisynergy is that black people is getting hurt by the Latino community. That part is not true. And I'm going to tell people why. And no. I'm going to say this. Partially it's true and partially it's not. I'm going to tell you guys why. Let me break down some real history. Black people have been poor in the United States ever since the end of the Civil War. Actually, at the end of the Reconstruction period. Black people have lived in poverty for decades. When the end of the Reconstruction period ended, black people, let's go back to the Reconstruction real quick. Reconstruction was a prosperity period for African Americans after the Civil War. And black people owned a lot of property at that time. They owned a lot of property. Black people were judges. Black people was even participating in politics. We had a 10-year period where black people were successful. As time went on, white people, Southerners, Democrat Party, that time the old Democratic Party, decided that they didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that blacks were starting to own property and have money and all that stuff there. So they used laws to disenfranchise blacks, but ending the Reconstruction period. African Americans started having to compete for jobs. They started to compete for jobs. They had to go and certain jobs, like for example, and I'm gonna give you guys an example real quick. If an African American, like white people, you gotta look at white people jobs and black people jobs. White people, they would work certain kind of jobs back in those days. Whenever a recession took place and white men lose jobs, they would take jobs from blacks. That's historic. And immigrants. So immigrants, European immigrants in the 19th century and white Americans always got rid of blacks from those jobs. That was the reason why you had so many lynchings that took place in the 19th century, because either the white businessman didn't want to hire the blacks, so we kept getting lowly jobs. Blacks were getting very lowly jobs. See, a lot of African Americans won't tell you that they make out like we were living in such prosperity. In the Jim Crow era, we didn't. We didn't make no money at all. That's why we were getting killed. Every time a black man made some money, he died. He was either hung, ostracized, or ran up out of a town or a city. That's why you had a big population of blacks moving to the big cities at points of time in American history, so that they could have some sort of opportunities, like in New York, Chicago, California, places like that. So black people always was on the bottom of the barrel when it came to making good jobs. And now there was no Latinos at all to do that. It was purely Caucasian people and white supremacy at that time that was keeping blacks from working. So blacks had to make businesses of their own. Even at times when they did that, that shit didn't pan out well either. So they would shut those businesses down. So as time went on, black people needed to have the federal government protect them. Now, if I go by Afrosynergy's logic and the conservatives' logic, black people probably wouldn't have had as much freedom at all, because, or they've been restricted. The laws protecting us because we needed the federal government to protect us. Most conservatives are for states' rights, believe it or not. They're for states' rights. That was the whole purpose in the ending of the Civil War. The whole purpose of the Civil War was state rights. They felt the federal government should not interfere with them having slaves. That's why we went to war. Afrosynergy and many African Americans follow what do you call that? A philosophy of conservatism where stuff reverts back to states' rights. Over time, with liberal policies, starting from Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of the greatest Democratic liberal presidents in the history of the United States, he put protections in for African Americans with Social Security, Medicare, all these different laws, helping the unions, strengthening up the unions. Blacks benefited from all these different things that took place. And he had to kind of ostracize the conservatives at that time. So as history goes, those liberal laws were still helping blacks. Now, one of the things that we didn't have still was equal rights, which again, the federal government had to interfere just for that. So again, these are the examples of history of the federal government interfering with African Americans and having rights in this country. Now you have a coalition of blacks today, in modern day, some blacks anyway, they're trying to say that we need to walk away from the Democratic plantation, because, you know, the Democrats are really racist. But over the years, over the decades, liberalism has helped African Americans to have prosperity in this country. I believe that the stuff that Afrosynergy say comes from Fox News. It comes from Fox News. It comes from Donald Trump. It comes from that MAGA, Make America Great Again stuff, when it's all myths. Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump and the Republican Party, and don't let Donald Trump fool you, they all work for dark money. They push for dark money. Their ties to the Bushes, ties to the Koch brothers, ties to major corporations, insurance companies. And so when Afrosynergy and many African Americans tell us that we need to leave the Democratic Party alone, they're telling us to go corporate. They're telling us to go into like we're wealthy people. The laws that the conservative movement have is devastating to the African American man. That would be very devastating. Why do I say that? Because those laws are anti-poor. A lot of black people are still poor in the United States. Donald Trump's laws have not He has put no laws in, which is a myth, excuse me, that he even made any laws that will be good for black people. He made no laws. All he says is, black unemployment is down to him. He hasn't pointed out a specific policy. And if Afrisynergy could do a serious to show a black person like me, not even take the liberal card off and the socialist card, and ask Afrisynergy, could he do an example or refer me to an old video of his or one of his commenters or fans, where is it that African Americans, what policy did he put in where African Americans are benefiting and they're successful in the United States? So that's one of my things, because I'm for African Americans too. I'm for African Americans succeeding, but I don't think blaming illegal immigration when black people was poor all through the 80s, black people was poor through the 70s, black people was poor through the 60s. So the black poverty level has always been high. Who was taking the jobs away from us? That's a question that people need to start asking before repeating Fox News dribble. Now, again, the Republican Party is owned by the corporations, oil companies. That's why you have Brett Kavanaugh, that's now the new Supreme Court judge. They're trying to rush and nominate him for that dark money could kick in, and that dark money controls the Republican Party. And I thought a lot of you smart individuals would know that dark money controls it. And see, the liberals are trying to stop the dark money and corporations from controlling the United States. But, like and share this video, people, and let's do some common sense. Peace out.